Half a day and welcome back. Thank you for your patience. We had a brief interruption due to a power outage. We are back on generator power here at the Guam Congress building, so thank you all for your patience. So at the last panel, Mr. Magwin, I'm hoping we caught the end of his testimony. All right, we're going to proceed now. These directors have been waiting for all the other testimony. Thank you very much. So you can please join us at the panel. Anyone who wants to present testimony. Thank you, Mr. Flores. I'd like to again recognize Senator Chris Barnett, the sponsor of the bill, and Senator Roy Kanata for being here. Thank you, Senators. All right, so we are on bill number 185-37, sponsored by Chris Barnett. It's an act to add a new section 83117, chapter 83, title 12, Guam Code annotated, relative to requiring any new hospital constructed pursuant to the Guam 21st Century Healthcare Center Act of 2021 to be constructed in the village of TAMUNING. And we've had testimony since about 2:10 p.m., so we will continue with these directors. Thank you again, directors. Who would like to go first? All right.
Either way the bill goes, Senator, or either where they build the thing, I guess I'm going to be responsible for it. In any event, my job, land management job here, is basically the land issue with building a...
All right, I'm sorry. Can you just state your name for the record?
Oh, sorry. Joseph Borja, Director, Department of Land Management, yes. I'm actually the land person. Land management plays the part here in reviewing these properties and analyzing these properties, and then we presented what our findings were to the consultant, Matrix, the company, and from there they developed the hospital master plan. I'm going to focus on actually 4 issues here tonight, all of them involving land. There's been a question about the size of the property, what we have left. Throughout the years and the decades, acres have been peeled off the original property. I believe at one time the Ipao Point site was actually 55 acres, I believe. Some of it was down on the bottom of the cliff, which is lot 10172, and the other one that's on the bottom is lot 5174-REM-2-R2, and also on the bottom there where the old, where the Devil's Punch Bowl is actually lot 5174-REM-2-1. So we'll start with the premise of about 53 acres. And 53 acres minus approximately 9 acres for the second Kuturan Chamorro. That brings us down to 44. Minus approximately 1 acre for the Healing Hearts. That brings us down to 43. And then minus approximately 3 acres for the foster children's home, which was subsequently relocated up to Barrigada Heights. That brings us down to about 40. Naftan Manaynata, with its buffer zones, is about 15.5 acres. That brings us down to 25. And then within the remaining portion, we had to make an access road for the second Kuturan Chamorro. And then also that access road should extend to the Naftan Manaynata. And we decided when we were land use planning that that should not be a one-way in, one-way out situation, but rather have minimal, at least 2 or even 3 access to the property. So we look at approximately 22, 23 acres. There's about a difference on that. But then you come into the term usable space. When you look at the map, usually a regular map, black and white lines, big open areas, and like that. But we've developed a map that is progressive, and it's basically a photograph, a map, and it's really a compilation of about 3 maps here. One is the aerial photograph, One is the property lines, and one layer is shows the various facilities on the site, what is planned for that area. And then also what we did in this latest map here is we added the topo lines that shows you where the cliff lines are and like that. And Madam Chair, we can submit that for the record here if the commission likes. So when we look down at usable space,
I'm sorry, Mr. Borja. You have another map now that you want us to use? Are you?
Oh,
we've been here for hours. We could have been making
copies. This map is progressing, Senator. As you know, the second Cultura, that map had to be changed because the property line ran across a house, and unlike that, I mean, yes, I would like for you to use these maps.
Do you have copies?
This map has the topo lines.
Do you have copies?
Yes, and I can leave that here for the...
Do you have...
I can have it on, I also have it on a thumb drive. Yes, ma'am, so have we.
Could have had these copies made for all the senators. We could have uploaded it to the drive. We could have put it back on audio in this time. We could get
Sure, I understand, yep. But, you know, you have it
so
now.
So this is different than the map that you provided in May and discussed at that time?
Yes. Can I keep one just for reference in case any questions come up? Yes. Yeah, they're all the same, yeah. It's just that during the course of the hearing, you know, most of the testimony was medical, and I didn't want to interrupt the thing, but you have it here, and I also have it in a digital copy. So that's basically on the land issues that we have here on it. Yes, the maps progress, and it will progress again, and as we develop a properties, like one of these properties should be returned back to the land trust, which is the former location of the foster home, the proposed location for it. So yes, that map will change. The map for the area will change. So that's basically what I have to say in size. Where did the number 35 acres come from that Matrix uses? It came from the original size of the property of that dash R7. That is 35 acres. Yes, I can see that that is 35 acres. But when you plot out the topo lines, it gives you a better understanding of what is usable and what is over by the cliff line. Also, what is on the bottom of the cliff line on that. So this is a better map to use as reference. It's more up to date on it. I believe that map that you were looking at is a 2021 map aerial photograph.
The one that I showed earlier?
I believe so.
That's a map you gave us in May 2023.
No, but if you look at...
In fact, you used it during the oversight hearing in May 2020.
All of these maps will have a version date on it, yes. And that map came from land management. Yes, you are correct. Second thing I'd like to talk about is this talk about fault lines. And I didn't invent the fault lines. I didn't put it there. I certainly gave notice to Matrix, the company, about the fault lines in there. I didn't mention on there. But the fault lines were first brought up in my research as far back as 1982. And then it was brought up in 1994, and then 1995, and then 2008, and then 2015, and then 2019. And what I have here are page excerpts from those reports showing the fault lines in that area. So there's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. And the other one is a real
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? What?
These are 3 reports identifying fault lines on Ipao Point on basic lot 5173. Yeah.
What reports?
That show fault lines on the property, yeah.
Are you going to give those to us?
Yes, you can have it right here.
Ayade, Director, if you want us to consider these, we've been asking you for information for weeks. All right, there's some more documents. I guess we should have. He wants us to see fault line reports. If you could make copies of those, please. What are the reports? Who are they from?
One report is from URS Corporation, Seismic Hazards Group out of Oakland, California, and this was a prepared report for the U.S. Geological Survey, National Earthquake Hazards Reduction Program. And the title of the report is LIDAR and Field Mapping of Quaternary Faults in the U.S. territory of Guam. So it just doesn't deal with Oka Point or Ipao Point on it. So that's one from the URS group. This is another one that was made for Civil Defense, Bureau of Statistics and Plans. And this one refers to a study by Dames and Moore in 1994 showing the major fault lines. And then this is another one here in 1995 done by Earthquake Engineering Research Institute, also showing major fault lines. Now these are two different reports, and they put the fault lines into one document for the Office of Civil Defense. And again, we have that here. And then this third report is done by, it's Generalized Geology of Guam, Mariana Islands. This is a 2008 report, and this one also shows, it marks where the fault lines is absolutely identified by a solid red line, and then another part here by a dotted blue line where it's assumed that it's in that area. So and again, these are three reports showing fault lines in Ipao Point and somewhere around the island. So those are the fault lines. I also want to mention something about you know, the LFA, little fire ants and like that. I guess Army Corps of Engineers didn't find any. I didn't know they were looking for some. But what I have here is a report from the Department of Agriculture. And it actually shows the locations of the fire ant. And this was done by the Biosecurity Division at the Department of Agriculture by the state entomologist Christopher Rosario over at that time. And Senator Barnett's right, I haven't seen any development that was stopped because of a fire ants report. So this is prepared by the Department of Agriculture, Biosecurity Division. The title of this report is Little Fire Ant Eradication Action Plan at Ipao Point. And I just scrolling through my cell phone back there, I did notice that Department of Agriculture recently, I believe November 17, received a federal grant to get rid of invasive species, both the little fire ant and the big feral pig. So they recently received money for that on it.
All right, Mr. Boer, I'm going to stop you for a minute. If those are things you want to submit for our consideration, I'm going to ask my staff to make copies, I guess, or upload them somehow.
You can take this and...
and maybe we're going to go with the GMH testimony while we make copies and upload all the documents that you want us to consider.
Actually, this is all the documents I want you to consider, and that was the that's actually the other thing on my testimony here tonight is, you know, I've read Senator Barnett's bill, and it is a finality bill, I guess you can call it. But I also want you to consider if the hospital, for whatever reason, cannot be built in the village of Tamuning, and I notice you use the word village rather than municipality, you know, where do we go after that? Just in case, for whatever reason, you might look at the possibility, the 1% chance or the bigger chance that it doesn't get built there, either financing, location, you know, whatever the situation is. You know, that the bill should have some sort of way out of doing that. Otherwise, we'll probably just be back here again. So just that's my whole testimony. And yes, all of these documents are in that thumb drive that I gave your staff on it.
Right now.
Yeah, right now. You know, Speaker, all these things actually were, except for the fire ants that came up in a meeting with DPW about cleaning up Ipoh Point, all this other information really, other than the updated map, you know, were submitted to Matrix, and you know, they did mention it in the report that they finally gave out, that there was a fault line on there, but I believe it was one, maybe two sentences in the whole report on that. The last issue I want to bring up, Senator, is that you know, a little history on the property there. You know, we all should know where it came from. It came, of course, from the Perez family, Frank D. Perez, who actually sold it to Guam. But there was a time when there was an effort here at the legislature. I believe a bill was even introduced by one of our land rights activist senator at that time to return it to Mr. Perez, but I guess it didn't make it, you know, to that. But it is one of the rare situations where the legislature has the power to return land to a direct landowner. And I was pretty amazed, actually, when I was reading the history that one of the senators, who is a very serious land activist, actually introduced a bill, I believe, to return the property back to Mr. Perez at that time. That concludes my testimony, and I certainly will stick around for questions that you may have, Senators.
Thank you, Director Borja. All right, I suppose you have testimony, Mr. Birch, Director Birch?
Yes, Madam Speaker.
Please proceed.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker. Senator Barnett, Senator Kanata. My name is John Birch. I'm the acting Administrative Director of the Chamorro Land Trust Commission. Today, I've been on the job there for 1 month. And if I'm unable to answer any of your inquiries that you may have about the CLTC, I'll be more than happy, and I want to assure you that I'll make every effort to promptly address your inquiries and provide the necessary information that you may ask. First off, it's crucial to recognize, just like everyone here that spoke before us today, the urgency in addressing the condition of the Guam Memorial Hospital. It's our sole public hospital. Extensive repairs are needed, and according to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the cost of fixing the current facility surpasses the expenses associated with constructing a new hospital elsewhere. In light of this assessment, the proposal for a new medical complex, including a hospital, healthcare agency facilities, and veterans care, is a commendable initiative aimed at providing modernized healthcare services and strengthening Guam's public health system. And this is not new to us in this legislature and this administration. The last legislature, the 36th Guam legislature, they passed Public Law 3656, the Guam 21st Century Healthcare Center Act of 2021. It was introduced by all 15 senators of the 36th Guam legislature, acknowledging the urgent need for new facilities at the Guam Memorial Hospital, the Department of Public Health and Social Services, the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center. These healthcare facilities have been in use for over 5 decades and are showing signs of structural failure due to their age, posing a liability to staff, patients, and visitors. The intent of the Guam legislature, as outlined in Public Law 36-56, is to provide the people of Guam with state-of-the-art healthcare facilities that will house all healthcare agencies within the Guam 21st Century Healthcare Center. The healthcare center would position Guam as the regional healthcare hub of Micronesia, fostering opportunities for medical training, tourism, and enhanced medical professional services throughout the region. The Department of Land Management and Governor Leon Guerrero have made significant efforts to identify suitable land for the new medical complex. While there has been some debate regarding the site's suitability, it is important to consider the comprehensive analysis conducted by the Department of Land Management and the Matrix Design Group. They evaluated approximately 16 different sites, considering factors such as travel distance, infrastructure issues, available space, and compatibility with adjacent projects. Based on their evaluation, the Manila Barragata site emerged as one of the most favorable options. Concerns have been raised about the cost and infrastructure requirements of the governor's preferred site. While the Matrix Design Group study highlighted potential higher infrastructure costs for the Manila Barragata site, it is important to acknowledge the long-term benefits of the site's capacity to accommodate necessary medical facilities and future expansions. Moreover, the site's central location and accessibility to residents in various areas provide strategic advantages. I firmly believe that the governor's project to build a medical complex on the 102 acres in the Manila Barragata area is a crucial step towards improving healthcare services on Guam. The current facilities require extensive repairs, making the construction of a new medical complex a more cost-effective and sustainable solution. The selection process considered multiple factors, and the chosen site offers strategic advantages that will benefit the community in the long run. I wholeheartedly support this project and believe it will enhance healthcare delivery and strengthen Guam's public health system. Regarding discussions of an alternate site at Ipao Point in Tamuning, which falls under the jurisdiction of the Chamorro Land Trust Commission, it is important to note that the property size is insufficient to accommodate the medical center proposed by the 36th Guam legislature, with approximately 22 acres remaining out of the original 53 acres, and after considering several acres that must be allocated for easements, stormwater runoff, and seismic setbacks. Furthermore, certain portions of the property have been designated for cultural, ancestral, foster home, and rape crisis center purposes. Considering these factors, I urge you to support the governor's proposed acquisition of a property that adequately fulfills the size requirements for the Guam 21st Century Healthcare Center, as it will enable improved healthcare services and establish a stronger health system here in Guam. Thank you for your valuable time and consideration. Suzus Maasi.
Thank you, Director Birch. Is that testimony on behalf of the Chamorro Land Trust Commission?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Lillian, Ms.
Buenas, Tanafade Speaker Therese Terlaje, Senator Chris Barnett, and Senator Kinanta, and members of the 37th Guam Legislature. Good evening, and thank you for allowing us the opportunity to express our perspectives regarding Bill 185-37. My name is Lillian Perez Posadas. I am the hospital administrator of our only public hospital, that's GMH. I'm here to express my disapproval, my disfavor, objection, and opposition of Bill number 185-37. I just want to also, for the record, dispute Dr. Shea's claim that he's the oldest and most experienced health professional in this event. Dr. Beeling, Chris Beeling, was the oldest, or is the oldest. He's got over 30 years of experience as an OBGYN doctor. I have 40 years of experience as a clinical nurse in the emergency room, ICU, and telemetry, as well as teaching at the UOG School of Nursing, and also in administration. And I also experienced the day-to-day empirical and factual knowledge I encounter at our hospital and throughout our healthcare system. Therefore, I speak with a firm belief and sound determination that the proposed site in Bill number 185-37 is not the best location for all, and I emphasize all, of the people of Guam. To require that the new hospital be constructed in Tamuning is constraining, restrictive, and short-sighted. Definitely not visionary for the many opportunities that our island can and will benefit and grow from. I urge you, senators, to be open-minded and think beyond the 10 years in terms of growing and improving our island's healthcare system. Building only the new hospital in Tamuning limits our ability to enhance, expand, and make it into a state-of-the-art medical complex, thus enhancing and improving access to the hospital as well as to the other healthcare facilities that will be co-located in a single location, a single campus, the Guam Medical Complex. Building the new hospital and the medical campus at the Edagaga in Barangay Manilao is in the best interest for all the people of Guam, especially for the residents in the South. It is the most advantageous and beneficial location for the residents of Guam. Having the other healthcare facilities such as the DPHSS and the GIBWIC co-located in one medical complex will improve the continuity and follow-up care. The current and existing GMH facility sits on 15 acres of land that does not allow us any additional space to expand, particularly the parking. Everyone knows parking at the Tamuning GMH facility is extremely inadequate and limited. And if I may refresh everyone's memory, Public Law 36-56 that my colleague John Birch mentioned is an act to design and build Guam's 21st Century Healthcare Center that you all agreed and supported, that it is the intent of the Legislature of Guam to provide the people of Guam with the state-of-the-art healthcare facilities, which will be designed to include healthcare, all healthcare agencies, within the Guam 21st Century Healthcare Center. The creation of the Guam 21st Century Healthcare Center is to ensure that all healthcare agencies have proper facilities that follow accreditation standards, guidelines promulgated by the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid Services, and applicable codes. It will also allow for Guam to become the regional healthcare hub of Micronesia, as it will open up opportunities for medical training and tourism to and from other Pacific Islands while increasing professional services and capacity within the entire region. That's just verbatim quoted out of that public law. Senators, this legislation, this vision was written by this legislative leadership, which I applaud and commend, and I also urge you all to follow through, honor, and stand by your word, your vision. Going back to Bill 185-37, it states, the Guam Medical Plaza is home to Guam's largest surgery center, a dialysis clinic, and an interventional radiology facility. In the event there is a life-threatening emergency at any of these clinics, it will take much longer to get patients to the ER if the hospital were moved to another village. My rebuttal to that is that, likewise for the Southern citizens, the lives of the Southern residents matter, as it was passionately expressed by one of the speakers. I think it was Mr. Ken Choglev. Because there is no equitable access to emergency care for the Southern residents, the time it takes to travel from many of the Southern villages to Tamuning is detrimental during an emergency when minutes can make immense difference. The traffic congestion in Tamuning causes unreasonable drive times. And it was mentioned and cited, and samples and stories were expressed by the other speakers. If any of the Southern residents is experiencing a life-threatening event, the longer and more time it will take for the resident to reach the ER. Additionally, per regulatory standards, all of these medical clinics are required to have emergency crash carts. Those are crash carts that have all the emergency medications, all the medical supplies that they need to then intubate, respond to any life-threatening situation in those clinics. The staff are also required to be ACLS certified. That means they need to have the knowledge and the skills to then respond immediately to any life-threatening situation if it occurs in any of those clinics. And at the surgery center, they have anesthesiologists on duty during the daytime so they can respond to any life-threatening situation. They can intubate that patient, stabilize that patient, and transport to then the nearest ER. Also in Bill 185-37, the last sentence in the first paragraph of page 2 states, the size and parking requirements make it difficult, find a location large enough in the village of Tamuning where most private clinics are located. Hence, Tamuning is not the site to construct a new hospital. The concern repeatedly raised in terms of the need for the physician to respond immediately because of a laboring female patient in the middle of the night and the OBGYN doctor needs to get to the L&D, as Dr. Shea pointedly and really portrayed that situation. We have and we continue to have a room in the L&D unit for the OBGYN doctor or nurse midwife to stay in the hospital and on premise so that the doctor or midwife can respond ASAP. If it's a C-section, an emergency C-section, that OBGYN doctor or midwife on call is there on site, on premise. The same goes for the internal medicine hospitalists. We have a room for them for when they are on call during the night. Again, I want to reiterate that we're not asking or telling the medical clinics, the doctors and the medical community to move or relocate their clinics or their practice, but we ask and we encourage them to be open-minded, to work with us and find creative solutions for the greater good of our island. The issue that was mentioned earlier with regards to nursing shortage, that's a perennial issue, and we're having ongoing discussions, looking at strategies to really resolve and address the nursing shortage. But unfortunately, these nurses, when they're young, they want to go for an adventure. So it's really keeping them. How do we keep them? And that's been the challenge. We just had a meeting Friday with the UOG School of Health from the Nursing Advisory Committee Council, and they're looking at increasing their entry-level nursing enrollment. And that will help in the turnout of those individuals when they graduate. Instead of 30 graduating, hopefully we see 50 graduating, so we can at least recruit. We have a higher turnaround for the demand we need for the island. So that's one way of helping us with our nursing shortage. As leaders, we have a duty and obligation to have and instill hope for our children, our grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and generations to come. As it was mentioned earlier, we may not be alive, but at least those in the future will have something to be proud of, a health facility and a medical complex to go to. We need to do our part to improve, to invest, and shape the future of our island's healthcare system. To say and think it's a waste of money or a waste of time is so hopeless and pessimistic. We need to change that mindset. We all need to be more positive and forward-thinking as leaders. Thank you, Senator Terlaje, and all senators present at this hearing for your attention and for listening to us. Please, I urge this legislative leadership to think what is in the best interest of all the people of Guam, the current and the future residents, visitors, and voters of Guam. Please do not let this bill number 185-37 be a disgrace, a dishonor, and a total disregard for our island, for our people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Posadas. Is Gita going to testify? Mr. Mendiola, are you available to answer questions? All right. If you could please come and just state your name for the record.
My name is Diego Mendiola from the Guam Economic Development Authority. Gita is not submitting testimony at this time, but I will be here to answer any questions you might have to the best of my ability.
Thank you, Mr. Mendiola. All right. Senator Barnett.
I'd like to thank the panel for their testimony at this time, and I guess I would just like to ask Mr. Borja if he could maybe explain for the benefit of the senators and also the viewing public, because I know you, it's like every time we have a hearing, you have a new map. And so today's map shows the usable property decrease, and there's also an increase in property on this map for the Naftan Maninata shrine. So could you please explain the differing numbers on this map, Mr. Borja?
Yes, this map was, this one has actually the topo lines. This is, I believe this is the first time I submitted this, the topo lines on it. Now the differing numbers concerning the Naftan Maninata in one of our meetings way back with the architect's representative and Mr. Patrick Lujan, it was decided that there should be a buffer zone between whatever activity is going to go on this particular one with the Naftan Manaynata, and that's what is included in there. The law allows for a suitable buffer zone, and it also requires that the property be contiguous to the second Kuturan Chamorro, and also it requires the survey to encompass GGN marker number 0002 on it, and this is the configuration that the surveyors came up with.
What, Mr. Bora, what does the law allow for the acreage with the shrine?
The law allows for the shrine itself, I believe, 2.5 acres, and within the law it does also mention a suitable buffer zone, number one. Number two is that the lot must be contiguous to the second Katuran Chamorro, and the third one is that it encompasses the big rock, so to speak, where GGN marker 002 is.
Right. So the law allows for, did you say 2.5 acres and then a suitable buffer zone?
Yes.
So if again you could just explain for the public how we go from 2.5 acres, and then I believe that the director of Chamorro Affairs had submitted testimony, and I'm just going to pull the number that's on the top of my head, 9 acres, and then we have here 13. So could you again just explain for the committee?
Yeah, the 2.5 acres is the actual
15.
facility there, the parking lot, and the actual, I'm not sure what you would call them, the entombment crypts on there, yes. That's what it shows here, that the facility itself is 2.5 acres, and the additional area is the about 13 acres of a buffer zone that.
So are you saying we're that 11-acre buffer zone?
I would say 13 acres. That buffer zone includes the big rock and some of the areas below the cliff line, and also the GGN marker. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Bora. We did have the opportunity to meet with the Perez family, just for information's sake. And they had indicated to us that the property, again, was to be used for the construction of a new hospital, and if in the event that the government of Guam wasn't going to utilize the property for that purpose, that the family would then, I mean, basically they expressed their desire to have the land returned to them. So, Mr. Birch, in your opinion, if we, because I know you said that the Chamorro Land Trust has wants to develop this property for tourism, convention center, but how does the Perez family's desires to have this property returned if we don't use it for its intended purpose? How do those desires play into this situation?
Yes, there's a conflict of the way things operate with the Ancestral Lands Commission and the Chamorro Land Trust Commission. If this property were deeded over to the Ancestral Lands Commission, our job would be to return it to the original landowners. But now, because the laws are different that govern both commissions, with the Chamorro Land Trust Commission, because it's in their jurisdiction, it's in their land inventory, basically what we would want, they would want, the board would want, is that it would be leased, the land would be leased for commercial purposes to generate revenue for infrastructure construction at the various residential and agricultural properties within the commission. So they're not the same mandates.
It's interesting. So in your ancestral lands hat,
we will return the property, yes.
But in your CLTC, keep it to make money.
And that depends where the property, which land inventory it is. It's up to the legislature to transfer the property. The legislature is the only body that can do that, transfer the property to ancestral land. So if you were to ask me with my director's hat with Guam Ancestral Lands, I say, transfer the property to us, we'll make sure the Perez family gets it back.
Thank you, Lillian, for your testimony. And I know this has been a recurring theme with not just with this current proposal from the governor and the medical complex and Gaga, but even with Eagles Field. And I kind of wanted to address this idea that, oh, we're not allowed to dream big, right? Because that's kind of what your testimony was talking about, leaving something behind for the children, right, et cetera. And I mean, I agree, and I mean, I wish that we could afford to be visionary, because I know that that's also been one of the pieces of messaging that's come out of Adelup, is that anybody who doesn't support the construction of the medical complex at Gaga is not visionary. And I think some of the cabinet members have even wrote editorials to that tune. But I don't have a problem with dreaming big, but it seems like, unfortunately, even when we don't dream big with the government of Guam, we have a tendency for the dreams to turn into nightmares. And I mean, you look at the state of the Guam Memorial Hospital, right? And if we're talking about managing, maintaining, staffing that facility, and then, you know, multiplying those efforts to staff and manage the medical complex, when we've seen along the way a lot of the proposed agencies that, again, had planned to make their home at the complex are revealing to us on the legislative record other plans. For example, Public Health says all CDC lab will now be at Mangilau. Jibwick has the grants to expand at Tamuning, and then we had Mr. St. Augustine come in and say, oh, well, we're going to put office spaces at the medical complex. So I don't think the people of Guam elected me to just say yes to whatever the governor, any lieutenant governor wants. And I don't appreciate the characterization that those of us who want to ask questions and compare their proposals and seek the information that we need to make a really good informed decision, because that's all, you know, I've asked for. We met with the governor, and she couldn't give clear answers on a lot of what's going to happen with the complex, what the plans, how we're going to, you know, maintain it and manage it. And I went into that meeting wanting to hear those details so that I could make an informed decision. And outside of like kind of the broad generalities that the governor is making these pronouncements on, I came away, you know, not really satisfied that we could make a big policy decision like this, and that I could just support it without having all those questions answered. And in the meantime, and you know, according to the matrix study and the data, because the governor did also tell us, never mind what the doctor's saying. Don't listen to the doctors. And I think if we don't listen to the doctors, the statistics and the data of the study continue, despite what Mr. Birch had offered in his testimony, continue to support EPAL point. And that's really the only place I'm coming from. I've spoken to many people who don't want to see this big dream turn into something that because we're talking about passing this on for our children and our grandchildren, don't want to saddle them and obligate them with something that they can't manage or maintain. And that's all I'm saying. And I think you agree, we've sat through so many hearings, and I've been here since January, and one of the things I hear over and over and over is we don't have the funds, we don't have the means, we don't have the ability to meet not even the fancy needs of our people, not even the dream big needs, the basic, enough police officers on the street, enough money to keep GMH in a state that we want it to be in. You know, I don't even need to mention the school system. So when I sit in here for 11 months and I hear this over and over and over, and then we have this proposal from the governor, I'm going to want to vet it, you know, the best that I can. And I understand your testimony, and I know that, you know, I mean, I could predict what your testimony would be, but I just want you to know on a personal note that that's where I'm coming from, is I want to make sure that, you know, the people elected me to make a good decision. And right now, I feel like the facts that I'm aware of support Tamuning and EPAL point. But again, I mean, that could change if the governor has concrete commitments, you know, down the road. But from the meeting that we had with her, I didn't get that. And I think it would be foolish for at least myself to to support that unless I got more information. And I think the facts now support EPA. So I thank you for your testimony, and I don't really have anything further. It's definitely been a struggle. Another recurring theme of the testimony we heard today was people said, listen to the experts, and they cited you guys, the directors, agency heads, cabinet people, and it's been very difficult for us to take at face value, and no offense, it is what it is. A lot of the testimony that we receive here, not just in this room, but even the one across on the hall, because I understand, again, right, you work for the governor, you're going to promote her agenda, and I think that's what's been, and I've said this in a million hearings, that's what's been so difficult about this process is we're not getting all the information in front of us to make that decision. And so I hope, I know I'm not going to convince you, but I do want to let you know where I'm coming from. And it's not coming from a place of negativity or naysaying, although, again, in your testimony, you characterized it that way. But, I would love to be visionary, and I would love to see it in black and white in front of me. But until that day comes, then, I've got to err on the side of caution. And I think that's what this bill does. So thank you. Thank you again to the panel. Thank you, Mr. Boyer. It's definitely been entertaining. I take that the right way. But I'm just not even sure what your next map is going to say. I feel like the next hearing we have, you're going to come back here with a map that says half-acre usable land. And I mean, it is what it is. And I thank you for your explanations about some of the differing acreages that you've brought down to the body. But I guess just lastly, so you said that you added in the topo lines, right, the topographical lines into this latest map that we have?
Yes, that's correct. I don't think that's ever been, it's those squiggly lines where it looks like it's drawn by somebody who's nervous. Yes, so the farther apart those lines are, there are more seemingly level space in between them. And then if you look on the very top of that map where you see that dark yellow, that's basically a cliff line. And you can see that the boundary line is over that cliff line. So that 22 acres encompasses the cliff line and some property on the bottom of the cliff.
And that's your part of the explanation as to why the acreage is changed on this latest map?
It's kind of like, if you look at a regular map and you see everything open, you would probably say, okay, you have 22 acres of usable land. But when you plot in the topo lines, then it gives you a better idea of, at least for this lot that has a cliff line around it, So how much is that cliff line worth in terms of space? I don't know, 3 to 5 acres maybe. Only a survey would do that. It would absolutely pinpoint that square meter down as to how many acres are on that portion that is not to the cliff line,
Were you able to read the report that was prepared for USGS that you provided to the committee?
Yes, the fire ants report.
No. The fault lines report.
Yes, I read this one, the URS. This is the most recent one, the 2015. I believe there was one in 2019 also that it's cited in one of these graphics. But I especially read the one by URS because it was actually specific to the hospital at Sutpun Point, but it shows the surrounding areas on there. And it actually clears a Sutpun Point for a seismic fault line in it, that it says that its fault line has actually moved to the south. And this one was done again for the U.S. Geologic Survey. I don't think it was done for the hospital, but it's got who requested for it and who did it in the front page there.
And that's, I'm going to read the report, Mr. Boyer. I don't feel like I could ask good questions until I digest the knowledge. But I guess the most obvious question to me is with the announcement of these fault lines, I mean, we've known about them all along. What does that mean for existing development in the area and any future development? Does that mean we just can't develop anymore?
Well, you know, it's almost a buyer beware situation, you know. As long as you're informed, it's an informed decision on your part that there is a fault line in there for whether you're the owner or an investor or something like that. And what effect it may have on you. You may want to take a chance, you may not.
So would we have to do something similar if we were to build at Attica relative to declaring the possible sinkholes?
Any site that you do, any site that you decide, whether it's Ipaw Point, Eagles Field, Adacao, Eda Agaga, you know, any point, you have that pre-construction report. Even if it's not for fault lines or sinkholes, but for munitions, archaeological purposes, historical purposes. Those are things that are required of applicants that come before the Land Use Commission, you know, that you have to do those things. And then especially, of course, if you are using federal funds, you know, you run into the Section 106 issue.
Thank you, Mr. Borja.
Thank you. Mr. Borja, can we just put up map number 1? Do we have the maps up, the other one that he gave us as well? All right, so map number 1, or slide number 1, there. Okay, so this is the map we were given in May 2023 that shows the NAF10 in yellow, including the buffer zone, the parking, and it shows the Sagan Cultura Chamorro. And then this map shows 25 acres. So you've given us a map today that's, now you're telling us, instead of, the law says, the NAF10 law says up to 5 acres. And you've taken, now you're saying 15 acres for the NAF10 on the new map. Do we have the new map? His new map from today? Anyways, it's just strange to me, of course, that we have a law that says one thing, and then we have land management doing another, and then we have a map and one day, and then the next day the map changes. This is kind of like the experience we've had over this whole process, and this is why we're spending hours going over hearing testimony from people that are hearing one story from one place or one meeting and then coming in here, and the facts are different. I find that very concerning, and you know, I'm not going to put bad intent on anybody, but I mean, I understand you don't want us to use EPOW, but I just think that changing the story or making these different allocations of
Senator,
land.
I want to present as much information in EPOW.
Yes,
point.
which you said you were
Yes.
doing in May, and now it's totally different.
And actually, even before May, that very, very first hearing, my report was ready for these issues. Now, has this map changed from the one I gave you in May? Yes, it has.
Yes. And I don't mind you giving me the topo. Can you give me the topo? I want to see the topo for the whole area without the NAF10 shaded. And then can you tell us, you gave us another
Actually,
map.
this
And you
map, Madam Speaker, this map contains the topo for the entire lot, even
Yes,
at-
but you see the NAF10 area? I can't tell the topo because it's shaded in yellow.
Okay,
So
yeah,
I'm
that's-
asking for the
yes.
underlying maps that you said you layered 3 maps on. And then you said you were creating some kind of access points. Are they shown on this map?
Yes, it is. And again, this is one of the reasons, Madam Speaker, that I try not to present the maps that are too busy. If you look really, really hard on that map there, you see these diagonal lines.
Are those different than the maps in May? The easements, the 2 acres of
I don't know,
easements.
put up the map. I believe it still shows in the May.
It is in the May map. So, but you started saying you were giving additional easements to the Sagan Couture and Chamorro, another in and out easement for the NAFTAN. And I'm asking, are those additional to the 2 acres of easements that you were showing in May? Can we put the May map up? Do we have the other maps up, ready online? Can we put the May map? Show, yeah, there you go. See the
Yeah.
easements, same,
Yes, yes,
right?
yes.
Okay, so the proposed easements are the same.
Yes, and even at that time, I believe it was 2 plus or minus acres, correct?
All right. Okay, and then you gave us another map. It says on the top, pursuant to Public Law 33-204. Why are you giving us this map? What does this map show?
That map shows the original site, and if you could put that up so we can see which one you're referring to.
Is this map ready to be online? All right, we'll go back. Can we get the 2 maps that you gave us today online? All right, I'm going to skip that question for now, but I do want to. So you're also giving us a report regarding fire ants. So you want us to go back again and consider fire ants after the Army Corps told us they removed all the trash at EPOW except for a few piles. And
Well,
they did test for fire ants, and I know you said in a previous hearing they're liable if there are fire ants. Well, no one has raised that. They said they've tested. They did not find any. It did not prevent them from moving the stuff. But when is this report from? So you gave us a report called Little Fire Ant Eradication Action Plan. I believe this is what you referred to in May, right?
That's
Is there
correct.
a report of how many fire ants? But this is an old report, isn't it?
Yes, it is. This is the report before it was cleaned up, yes.
All right.
Before the EPOW point was cleaned up.
Okay, like in 2021?
I'm not sure the date is on this report, ma'am.
All right.
The,
And we said earlier that when the author of this report, you said it was Chris Rosario? Is that, you said the author?
Christopher
of-
Rosario, state entomologist, yes. He was here at one of the hearings.
Right, is he the author?
Yes,
This
it is.
report doesn't have a date, is it part of another document? I can't tell the author
This is
or
what
the date that it was
Christopher
prepared.
Rosario presented to us. I don't know if this is a draft, but it was done before before Typhoon Mauer.
Yeah. We had asked you previously to give us a copy of all the documents that you submitted to Matrix. Is this one of them?
No.
Okay, so this was not given to Matrix, but
No.
it looks to me like this was prepared in 2021, based
I'm
on a
not sure.
2021
Yeah.
study. All right, and so you're giving us now documents that were not given to Matrix, including maps with different areas. The fault lines, you said you informed Matrix about the fault line, yet they still concluded that EPOW was the number 2 site above Atacao Crown Lands, despite the fault lines that you informed them about. Do we have maps of the fault lines? Do you have maps of the fault line?
Yes. This is the maps I submitted.
Oh, you gave to us?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. All right. And you said earlier that, so none of these studies, including the FireAnt studies or the topo maps, even though matrix lists possible sinkholes and an uneven topography at Atacao Crowns, that those were not done yet. I think our maps are ready now. Do we have 3 maps ready? Okay, let's just put up number 1 again, please. Okay, this is, I'll call this number 2. This is the map that we received today from the Director of Land Management. This yellow area is now 15 acres, shaded off. It's 15 acres versus the law that says up to 5 acres. And this is different than the other map. So this now says that there are 22 acres available at Ipao Point versus the map we received in May that said there were 27, I think, acres available at Ipao. We received it from the same Director of Land Management, and I think in that map. All right, and then there's a third map. Do we have this map ready to go on up? Okay, we could put the third map that we received from the Director of Land Management today. It says on the top, pursuant to Public Law 33-204. This, pursuant to Public Law 33-204. Public Law 33-204 is the NAFTAN law, the law that sets aside the land. It was authored by Senator Tom Atta, B.J. Cruz, Judy Wampat, Respicio, and all other senators at the time. It set aside a minimum of 2 acres up to 5 acres. And then it required in that law that it should that they must, in Section 4, it says, land management shall survey, sever, and map the subject property in Section 2 of this Act. That's what this map is, isn't it, Mr. Borja? This is the severance map for the NAFTAN.
That's correct.
All right, and this shows a totally different area in the square there. That's the property that was severed.
And actually, the new map here, that encompasses that. If you look carefully at this,
yes, but
this,
I know, but I'm talking about this map that was done pursuant to the law. Looks like back in 2017, the approvals were signed, and this shows about. Maybe it's supposed to be 5 acres, so I'm assuming that's 5 acres there. I can't read it, it's too small. It says 5 acres. Anyways, it's that square next to the Sagan Couture, right above the Sagan Couture in Chamorro. It's a square, 5 acres. And I'm just showing, this is the original map in compliance with the law. And then we received a map in May where this area for the NAFTAN had increased significantly, and now we have a map where it's all the way up to 15 acres. And, you know, this is a sacred site for us, and so it really hurts me that we're going to use it as some kind of, feels like a game in here, that you're going to use that as the reason we can't build a hospital on Ipao Point, while at the same time the Chamorro Land Trust Commission is seeking to rent this place out, lease it out to build casinos, convention centers,
Those
condominiums,
those
anything.
And those are both two public laws, Senator.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And I think they were intended, this was intended that they could coincide. So there is nothing wrong with a hospital coinciding with this place. And I just don't like the idea of the map lines are moving while we're in here. Is the governor showing that in her meetings? That the map lines are moving over the years from 2017 until
Speaker,
today?
The
Mr.
original
Borja,
map
that's
was
just a
made,
rhetorical question, Mr. Borja.
Do you want to hear my testimony, Madam Speaker? Actually, that map that you looked at, the white one, that was made before I came to land
That's
management.
right.
And as a disclosure, I helped in the drafting of that bill for Public Law 304 or whatever that public law that you were. When I came to land management, I felt that that survey that was done in 2017, I believe you call that, did not comply with the law. It did not provide a proper buffer zone on it. I'm not saying that you can't or you shouldn't build a hospital next to it. That's a decision that you make, Senator.
All right, thank you. I'm just saying that the map lines are moving even from May 2023 until today, and that the numbers of acres available continue to change, even from the numbers that Matrix reports, that you reported in the last hearing we had, and that you report today. Okay, I have a couple questions. In the last hearing, you said there were 25 acres, and today you're saying there are 22 to 23 acres available. All right, that's good. There were concerns about I'm sorry, I just want to cool off. I'm sorry, I'm losing my, just want to be, all right, if I could just maybe, I'm going to ask Gita some questions. Gita, thank you. So you hired Matrix, Gita hired Matrix, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we paid them $1.6 million for this project alone, the hospital medical campus project.
Yes, ma'am.
1.6 million, right? Well, in the hearing that we had yesterday or the other day, there's some kind of hint that the Director of Land Management is telling us that we should no longer rely on that Gita report. We should instead rely on his assessment and the Director of Ancestral Lands assessment
Chair,
of which
I never said that.
properties are best for the hospital.
And we can play the video back, Madam Chair. I never said that they should not. I'm saying that there are some discrepancies in the Matrix report. And of course, the Matrix report is based on information that I gave them. As you can tell if you look at the Matrix, the document there.
That's correct. And we asked you for all the documents that you had submitted to Matrix. I saw no information regarding a fault line or fault maps. And although Matrix did acknowledge that there is a fault on these EPAL properties, it looks like it goes through TAMUNING. However, so we paid them $1.6 million for this study. And now we have a letter from ORIC that was attached to a governor's press release. And now this hasn't been submitted to our committee by anybody, but not by Gita, not by any of you agencies here, not by the governor, but it was attached to a press release that she sent out. So, of course, I read it, but, you know, we're trying to conduct a formal public hearing here, and if there is any relevant information that you think we should have, I would hope that Gita would present that to us. Otherwise, we're relying on rumor and third party. Anyways, all of a sudden, it says this is an October 25th, 2023 letter from ORIC, who Who is ORIC? Can you just explain who ORIC is?
Ma'am, I believe that that's the bond counsel. This is really my administrator as well as our public finance manager, Tina Garcia, to best answer questions with regard to public finance, because I really do not want to go into that lane and say something incorrect or.
All right. Well, then I'll just state my questions and maybe you can take them back to them. So this letter says that they were told, ORIC was told by Tina Garcia, that the legislature has been reviewing the campus at TAMUNING location, the medical campus at TAMUNING location, and that such location sits on an earthquake fault line. Do you have that information, that EPAL Point sits on an earthquake fault line?
The information, I learned it from Mr. Borja.
All right, and it says that they need to disclose that. If we build there, they're going to have to disclose it to their bond people. They talk about how they've done this disclosure for other similar bond projects, including a school transaction, and they've given us their sample disclosure language there. And then they said, however, to my knowledge, that particular project was not located directly on a fault line. Was your ORIC counsel provided a copy of the fault lines of Guam?
I'm not aware, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm curious whether they would know for sure, they should know for sure if they are making the representations as to the school projects and this project. And then it says something about the bonds. It's typical for the bond documents for the types of bonds, such as the bonds, to require that the government obtain earthquake insurance, or at least make commercially reasonable efforts to do so for projects such as the project, because that is what bond investors would expect. I would assume that obtaining such insurance would be impractical at best were the project to be located on an earthquake fault line. Do you think our current hospital is covered by earthquake insurance?
I don't know if that would.
Do you know whether Adelup is covered by earthquake insurance?
No, ma'am, I don't know the insurance.
Do you know whether any of the schools that we've built through GIDA are covered by earthquake insurance?
I'm sorry, Madam Speaker. Again, that would be really in Tina Garcia's
Okay.
public finance lane.
All right. So we don't know whether they were provided a map of the fault lines, and we don't know yet whether they were covered by earthquake insurance. Is the current hospital covered by her earthquake insurance, Ms. Posadas?
Sorry, thank you for that question. We do have insurance for the facility, but as far as the details in terms of earthquake, I don't have that information. But we just filed some claims with the Typhoon Mawar damages, and so we're covered with some of those claims with regards to the leak. I think there may be coverage on the earthquake because we submitted a claim when we found the cracks on the roof that we wanted to, and we submitted a claim with our insurance.
All right, I remember discussing that.
Right,
yeah, and that
exactly.
you were waiting for coverage, and then they ended up covering it.
No, they didn't cover the,
Oh, they
the
did not.
cracks, not the cracks.
Okay, so not covered for earthquakes. That's all
we
right.
weren't covered for the cracks.
Yeah, they make it sound like it's impractical for any building on Guam. All right. Do you think that the bond counsel would be similarly lack confidence in extending bond if the property had sinkholes or was next to a missile site or a live fire training range or quarries or in an industrial zone for a hospital?
I don't know, Madam Speaker, but for any projects, all information with regard to surveys for the site, I would like to say I would think that those would be disclosed to any investor, but as far as what was shared with ORIC, that was really with the Public Finance Division of GIDA.
All right. I'd like to see, if possible, the email that was sent to your counsel requesting this opinion or whatever information that they were given. It sounds like, I'm not sure. I can't tell what information they're actually looking at. All right.
Madam Speaker, if I just may clarify, we may have that coverage, but at the time we submitted our claim, it was just denied by the insurance provider. I forgot what the reason was.
Okay. All right, that's good news. We're able to get earthquake insurance. I think we all need it here. All right. Do you think Matrix report should be disregarded?
Well, Madam Speaker, like with any, in my experience with any, consultant report, it's really a third-party look-in. The deciding parties is really the government of Guam. So, it's the Matrix report. It does provide information that would be new to us, which is good. Some of the information may be things we had already known because we were working with them. So, as far as like disregarding an entire report, no, ma'am, I don't believe we should. But just keep the information that is useful or whatever is helpful to help us make the best decision that we can.
Yes, especially if we paid $1.6 million and we are trying to be objective here and not subjective and going on any single person's whim in this government. All right, because the most important part is that this is cost that is going to go to everybody for a very long time. If we go to the bond market like you guys are proposing, then that's 30, 40 years. That's other generations beyond ours. That's why we are here. That's why I'm sitting through these hearings for hours and hours trying to do my job, even though some senators think this is not their job. It's definitely my job to sit here and decide or get at least the information to try to put in front of the other senators as to what really are the facts regarding this property, what are the costs. And so we have found that the costs for construction, according to Matrix, the contractors hired by GITA, are going to be higher at Atacao Crowns than for EPOW. That's all they say. They don't give us the details, and they gave us a proposed number for if it was built at Eaglesfield, it would be $843 million up to $1 billion. That's just for the hospital itself. And they gave us a proposed cost of $100 million plus for infrastructure for Atacao Crowns versus a $20 million infrastructure for EPOW Point. That includes roads, sewer, and water, and power. That's why we are here considering this, because that's a huge amount of money that we're going to be putting on the backs of the people. They talked about access to either of these properties, and EPOW Point scored higher because it says it has both a primary access on Chalon San Antonio and a secondary access through both San Vitores and Governor Carlos Camacho Street, which is critical for emergency response. Atacao Crown access is Route 15. Secondary access would need to be constructed. It's not available right now. We also know that the current hospital in TAMUNING has benefited from upgrades in water and power because of the nature of the hospital, even though it definitely suffered during the typhoon. All right. We talked about the drive time charts, and so Lillian, I know that you said earlier we need a hospital that's going to benefit all of the people of Guam. I think either location is going to benefit all of the people of Guam, but you said especially those in the south. And are you talking about the drive times, or what do you mean by that? Because the drive times, according to Matrix, again, GITA's expert, are the same. They're all over 30 minutes for Inalahan, Malesu, Humatak, Agate.
As it was described by the various individuals from the South, you know, the drive time, but my point is accessibility, which includes, it factors in the drive time to access that service. So that's my position.
Okay. And
But if I may add to
We
it
were-
too,
Yes,
it's not just then the hospital, but if we have a complex that has all those other healthcare entities, when patients are discharged, we can direct them over to public health, especially those individuals who are serviced by public health, MIP, Medicaid beneficiaries. They can follow up with their, you know, for their appointments when it's right in close proximity, because that's what happens right now, is when these individuals are discharged from the hospital, they get lost and they don't have follow-up. Then they end up being readmitted into the hospital. So,
But when they're discharged, well, okay, that's fine. We're talking again, okay, so if you could prepare, if my staff could prepare the slide number 3 from our original slides. So we're talking about areas. This is the current hospital area. This is from a 2010 map. It shows this current hospital area. It shows behavioral health is separate. So that map of the hospital was calculated at 10.96 acres, not even the 17 acres that we've been hearing about. So I'm not sure where that discrepancy comes from, but I'm sure we could clear that up later, but it's not really that important to my point. So these are the same maps, by the way. So, okay, this is 10 acres. And then as we saw, the current EPAL point, we have available a minimum of 22 up to 27 acres. And I'm quoting from land management's previous testimony, what was once a 53-acre parcel now only has 27 usable acres of available open space, and allowing for map and severed easements of approximately 2 acres. That would be approximately 25 acres, unquote. All right. And could we go to the next slide, number 4? These are just some comparisons of the acreage, and some of the doctors did this earlier, but I find it pretty compelling. So this property's 10 acres. They're saying it's too small. I totally agreed. And of course, we don't want to build. This is what the Army Corps pointed out to us, and Lillian, of course, we don't want to build while we have to operate a current hospital. We don't want to build on that site if we don't have to. Slide number 4, please. This is, so I'm just doing, this is a very short comparison of different acreage on Guam. So current hospital, 10.96 acres. EPAL point available, minimum 22, possibly 27 acres. GRMC, this is GRMC. It looks to be about 9 acres if you include the adjacent medical arts building. So this is smaller than the existing GMH footprint. Next slide, or the next one of these slides. This is Bank of Guam in Agana, multi-stories, 10 stories, approximately 2.5 acres when it was built. It boasted a state-of-the-art design to withstand earthquakes. Next slide. These are the summer towers. These are what I previously referred to as the Emerald Towers. These are the towers built right next to the Guam Memorial Hospital. You can just drive right by there and you'll see how high these buildings are. 4 towers, 16 and 19 stories, housing 192 3- and 4-bedroom units, ranging from 1,200 square feet to 1,700 square feet. Swimming pool, basketball courts, tennis courts, barbecue, picnic areas, play areas for children, state-of-the-art fitness center, elegant community center, underground parking, secured entry, setback from the cliff, 88 feet to 150 feet maybe. This is 7 acres right next to Guam Memorial Hospital on the cliff line. Next slide. That's smaller than the hospital's property, 7 acres. Okay, this is PIC. 777 guest rooms, 3 towers, a water park, parking structure, 22 acres of property. Next slide. The Subaki Tower, 340 rooms, 27 floors, built on 5 acres. And mind you, we're proposing to build a 161-room hospital with expansion up to 300 rooms. Matrix only showed a drawing for the 160-room hospital. Okay, next slide. Honhui project, this is the old Royal Palms that was destroyed in an earthquake. 2 towers they're proposing here in earthquake zone. 2 towers, 37 stories. North tower, 31 stories. South tower, 7 acres. They're proposing to invest $300 million. That's 7 acres. Next slide. The Don Donkey store. This is 14 acres. It actually looks maybe 20 acres on this map, but the news article said 14 acres with a 2-story retail, 263 customer parking, 43 staff parking. Next slide. These are all less than the 22 acres available at Ipao Point. This is GPO, 19 acres, and this includes, of course, their anchor stores, Ross, and all the stores in the mall, and the movie theater, and Wendy's, and Longhorn Steakhouse, and Ruby Tuesday, and King's, and the annex that used to be Forever 21, as well as all the parking spaces surrounding the facilities, 19 acres. And the next slide I want to show you, I tried to map out what would 100 acres look like. So they're proposing to take 100 acres out of the land bank. And some testimony today said this land bank, that's government of Guam property. Well, it was, but the government of Guam in previous legislatures gave it to the land bank to hold in trust to benefit those beneficiaries. So unless we're going to renege on that, we have to take care of those beneficiaries. Anyways, 100 acres, this shows the current GMH up at the top, in the middle. To the right of that, it shows Parisville. To the left of that, it shows Jonestown. That's 100 acres. The entire subdivisions of Parisville, Jonestown, and the hospital. Next slide. This is another depiction of 100 acres. From the Hilton Hotel around to Ipao Beach, around to PIC, up through the Pacific Star. That's 100 acres. And the last slide. Another depiction of approximately 100 acres looks like this U.S. Navy hospital. The entire base is 100 acres. The hospital portion on the far left, that's only about 17 acres. So we're talking about, thank you for the slides. So we're talking, oh, that was the hospital slide. You can put that last one up. This is just putting a triangle around the Navy hospital, all of its addendum buildings, and the parking lot. And we know this hospital is too small, but of course, they could have built up. This is only a few floors, and it's 17 acres. Thank you. And it's on a cliff. And so we know that for public health still has available to it the Mangilaw property of its original building. We asked DPW, who said they are in the midst of an RFP to study that building one more time to see if it's usable. We also know that the current hospital site, where our hospital GMH is right now, if we build a new hospital, that site is supposed to become available for potential uses. And it's been proposed that that's a potential place for behavioral health and public health, if those need to be next to our hospital, if it's built at EPAL. And honestly, I'm not proposing either one right now. I really am trying to get all the information I can to make a decision. It does weigh on me, the amount of money and the difference in the amount of money. It weighs on me very much the amount of time difference that these two properties show us. And so looking for solutions that are win-win, which keep the public health facilities close by. I mean, if that's the desire, I think we can still look at other options. All right, and I just want to talk about the fault lines. So this was mentioned in previous hearings, so I got some maps myself. These are not looking the same as the maps that you gave me, Director, although we did get it out of this report too, this final technical report, LiDAR and field mapping of faults in the U.S. territory of Guam. So if we could put up map number 5.
Madam Speaker, if I may, just kind of interject here. In terms of comparing hospitals and hotels, there are standards and codes in terms of the height and the width of those rooms per patient. All those other things that we need to factor in, oxygen
Yes.
pipeline, vacuum pipeline, and ventilators that, if patients need ventilator in their rooms. And then we also need to make sure that we include the skilled nursing facility in that hospital. And that's a 40-bed right now that we're certified to operate a skilled nursing facility, a skilled nursing unit, 40 beds. And so we need to make sure that we don't disregard that capacity that we need to have
nobody's
at the
doing that.
hospital.
We're going with the matrix number of square feet that they proposed, right? 4 stories, and then they gave a very definite number of square feet.
Okay.
So
I just want to make sure that we don't overlook the
All
skilled
right.
nursing unit.
I'm not proposing to do that. I'm just saying that if you calculate the square feet proposed by Matrix and the square feet available on this many acres of property, it looks very feasible. Okay, map number 5. This is a USGS study of the fault lines on Guam, published in July of 2015. Stated that the most prominent faults include the Adaloop, Talafofo, Mount Santa Rosa, including the Machanao Fault, Tamuning Jigo, Cabras, and Cocos Faults, as well as the suite of faults near Agat Point at the southeast tip of Guam. That's a quote. These are the lines. It's hard to see this. They're red, so it's hard to see here, I admit. But the EPAL fault line is not included in this list as one of the most prominent faults. The prominent fault lines run through Anderson Air Force Base, Jigo, and Adaloop/Agana. All right, and it's, all right. All right, and we did receive testimony from BSP regarding use of the Facility Designer's Guide for Tropical Islands, prepared under the direction of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers on behalf of the Office of Insular Affairs, published in 2022 for Guam, CNMI, and other areas. Received funding from the OIA in tropical climates. It provides design guidance for standardizing and improving quality and long-term performance of building projects, vertical construction, to include general corrosion control measures and geotechnical and foundations considerations. I believe, yeah, as there are other seismic activity guidelines, if that is a concern. All right, so there's, I think, the all right. Is there any other testimony that any of you has in regards to the matrix estimates of costs? All right. Okay. All right, senators, any other additional questions? Senator Kanata, Senator Barnett? Yes. All right, I have no more questions. Senator Barnett, well, give me 1 second. Let me just see. And Lillian, I just Administrator Posadas. You said that our new medical complex, of course, should be CMS compliant. It should be, if possible, we're going to be building a new one. It should receive accreditation, and that's our dream list, really. That's our dream list for our hospital. And wherever we build that hospital, that's what we're going to go for, correct?
Correct, and then also it's written in the Public Law 36-56, verbatim, what I had said.
Okay. And the governor had told us in our meeting that regardless of the location of the site of the hospital, that the federal funding that she is trying to obtain should be available regardless of site. And I know that we're trying to include state-of-the-art things for the people of Guam, including some of the things that the military also want available because they don't have it available right now at Naval Hospital, including the
Neonatal intensive care unit, they don't have.
yes,
Correct.
and the what's that air chamber, the hyperbaric chamber, and of course a helipad. And in 2010, they had proposed that the helipad be built right behind the ER of the current hospital. So I was surprised by that they could fit it there, right on the cliff.
And I guess maybe it didn't fit because it never happened.
That's because that was a 2010 plan, and none of that plan happened. It was supposed to be, they built the maternal health care facility over at IPAO, and then they built the rest of the hospital there in the coming years. It was never funded, I don't think. That was a proposal to the Department of Defense that was not funded. All right. Is the CLTC still proposing to lease this property?
Yes, as far as I know, yes. They're still proposing, and they refuse to relinquish the property itself.
Yeah. It was a previous law from the legislature that gave it to them years and years ago to lease out, and some of the proposals for leasing, as we've gone over in this and previous hearings, there are a whole slew of things, and none of those developers, and they gave up some real plans in some of those proposals. None of them seem deterred by some of the conditions that some of you are concerned with.
Actually, Madam Speaker, there is one proposal that was in 2003 that actually showed what they were going to do to remediate the fault line.
Okay. All right. And then we heard testimony from Gita the other night that it would take maybe a year, right, to complete the studies on the Atacao Crown lands. And that's where we would get the information similar to what you're presenting today for IPAO. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. That would confirm that those kind of studies would confirm all the things that anybody would say about the site, soil conditions and whatnot.
Okay, thank you. And then we also heard that it would take at least 3 years to build, the road, and then we needed to build a power plant at Atacao Crown. That's why I'm saying there are serious concerns over the time, the difference in time and the difference in cost. Someone said here today, leave the governor alone, don't get in her way, let her do it wherever she wants. Well, I don't understand what he means by that, because we are here on a bill that was submitted to us because the governor concurs. This is the legislature and the people of Guam's determination to be made. And this is something that is not going to impact just her or this cabinet for these 3 more years. Not at all. It's going to go on we're committing to a 40-year loan 40 years, and we're committing to $1 billion. And so I just don't understand that rationale that we should look the other way and not even verify why the data is different in one day from the next. All right. Thank you again for all your patience, and thank you for coming to all the hearings that we have invited you to, and thank you for the information. If there's anything else to submit in writing, please do so. I'm going to, Senator Barnett, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to thank Senator Kanata and, of course, the Speaker for being here. Most importantly, I want to thank the panel present and all the previous panels for their testimony here today. And again, I want to thank Speaker. She's done a tremendous job of kind of sorting through a lot of the information, which seems to change hearing to hearing. And I just have to say, I feel like that's why these hearings are so long, is because a great amount of time in these hearings is spent kind of unraveling a lot of the contradictions that we receive in the testimony before us. So, I mean, I think it's going to be very difficult as a body. I mean, some inside baseball here. I think it's a tough decision, and I think that we're finding it difficult to get the support for both of these measures. And I think it's because we're just in need of more information. I mean, when I talk to people about the governor's proposal, of course, who wouldn't want to support, something grand like that? But again, I thank Speaker for kind of putting it in perspective. I mean, when you see a chunk of land, 102 acres, I mean, from Hilton to basically the whole Tumon, I mean, to say dream big, that's too big. And again, I just have to go back to what we're able to manage, what we're able to maintain, and what we realistically should be passing on to not just our children, but our grandchildren as well. As this is a very huge debt, and I'm sure you all appreciate the gravity of this decision we must make. And I guess, it's going to be difficult. Should this bill pass, I don't anticipate that. I mean, let's be honest, right? But, even in the event that we should have the votes that for an override, I'm not even sure what action, if any, would be taken on this bill. But again, I did not introduce this bill to represent any special interest, as the accusation was made today. I introduced this bill because the data supports the selection of EPOW point. According to the Matrix study, I want to thank you, Mr. Mendiola, for your very honest testimony. That was probably the most honest thing we heard in this panel. I appreciate that, because you're right. We paid a hell of a lot of money for this study, and to suddenly just want to ignore it in order to suit the agenda, I prefer that we just get all of the facts out on the table and then make the best decision that we can. And so thank you again for your time, and sorry it took so much of it today, but it definitely are appreciated. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator. There being no additional individuals to present further testimony, this committee will consider Bill number 185-37 duly heard. The committee will remain open for the submission of additional written testimony until November 27th. Testimony can be sent by email to Senator Terlaje @gmail.com or hand-delivered here to the Guam Congress Building or to my office. The time is now 8 p.m. Thank you very much. Si Diyos masi.